So, before we get into this month's podcast, I just wanted to play you this little clip from a recent interview that Jazzy Jeff did at the Red Bull 3 Style, I think it was, in Poland, just about his views on the sync button as to sync or not to sync. It resonated with myself, and I think any DJ who is a little bit tired of all of this controversy and arguments over the sync button. So have a listen, and this is coming from DJ Jazzy Jeff, who is a bit of a personal hero of mine, number one, but also probably one of the best DJs in the world, well, best party rocking DJs in the world for sure. So listen, just before we get into this month's podcast, like I say, have a listen and let us know what you think.
Is sync the end of DJing?
I just said earlier that technology doesn't have shit to do with DJing. Like, I don't understand this whole thing that people are mad at the sync button. Don't use it if you don't want to use it. But if you want to use it, use it. You know what I have a problem with? I don't mean to get on my soapbox. I think people start realizing that the reason why you DJ is for them people out there to have a good time. They don't give a about a sync button. Stop worrying about that the people that you're supposed to be DJing for don't worry about. They don't worry about what kind of equipment you use. Being real, you got 10,000 people at a festival. 700 of them see you. They don't know what you're using or not using. Like, I'm tired of people complaining about the wrong shit. Play good music and stop worrying about a sync button.
And we are back from the on the Rise, the wonderful On the Rise Casa out in Wembley in London.
For a minute, I forgot where we were. You was like,
it looks a
where
bit
are
different.
we?
This isn't different. This table's different for me. The guys have done some house cleaning. They knew I was over. So.
Yeah, we're not shoving ourselves in the little studio now. We're out in
That's nice.
Yeah,
Big boys.
big
boy
boy
stuff.
studio.
Big boy stuff for episode 4. So we'll get into it straight away, I guess, lads.
Welcome to the Knowledge Crate podcast. See, that was this week's jingle.
Been waiting for ages to do that. So I suppose we have some news to talk about. Let's do it.
Yeah, we do. Okay, so well, there's plenty been going on, actually. There's quite a lot of exciting stuff. Stuff that we have actually mentioned before, and some stuff that we haven't. But the stuff that we have mentioned before, we can talk a little bit more about it now. I think the first one that's come out is a brand new controller from Pioneer DJ and Serato, the DDJ-SB3.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's their entry-level pro controller. I think it retails around sort of £220, £230. Very successful. It's great for people just getting into DJing. A lot of tricks and tools on it, and comes with Serato intro or
DJ Lite.
That's all right.
Whoa, on brand.
Which has now been upgraded to.
Sorry, I nearly just pulled the computer off.
It's actually your computer, mate. Go nuts.
It's my computer as well.
We're getting off to a good start at least.
Yeah, we are indeed. So yeah, I mean, Terry, you've been having a good play with it, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. It's I mean, yes, it's very much an entry-level controller in the same lineage as the previous two SBs. So, I mean, the SBs have been the number one selling, at least in the States, the number one selling controller. I'm sure they're not very far behind here as well. But the SB3 kind of ups the game a little bit with a couple of banging new features. So it's basically got, number one, the FX fade feature, which if you're a DJ and you've been using a combination of beat and sound color effects on any of the DJ stuff, what you've got with the fade effects is like combinations of the two to aid you in your mix in and mix out, mostly your mix out. I've been having to play around with it, and it's basically exactly the kind of stuff that I do to transition between tunes in one pad. Now, this does differ a little bit from the pad effects on, say, like the RB or something like that. Jay's just holding it up for us so that we can see. I've not stopped looking at it for the last few days, actually, because I've just been doing a video on it. But the exciting one, and possibly the most controversial one, it seems to Yeah, it seems to have opened up a big can of worms for a lot of Facebook DJs.
Two sync buttons.
Is you've got the scratch pad, or the pad scratch, should I say.
Was this what you were doing online recently?
Yeah, I did like a little video, like
so
a little.
you scratch and it kind of plays it back. Is that what?
No,
it is?
what it is, you've got the, and I won't hear a word against him. The almighty man.
Cunning.
No. It starts with a J.
It's
Yeah.
DJ.
DJ Jazzy J. There is actually
Jeff
Jazzy
Cunning.
J. Jazzy Jeff Cunning. Makes you sound like a wedding singer.
And Will Hooligan.
And now to the stage, Jazzy Jeff Cunning.
Do you know, we should do that. We should do, you know, Jazzy Cunning and Will Hooligan.
Where was I? Oh yeah, so the pad scratch. So what the pad scratch is, Pioneer have worked with Jazzy Jeff, not Jazzy J, to produce a button that you can press on the controller. And what it does is it mimics some of Jazzy Jeff's scratches. Now, they're all very simple scratches. They're all...
Wait a minute, bruv. You telling me you don't even have to bother learning to scratch
Oh,
now?
what? So they're just automating scratches now. They're going to get rid of the DJ altogether.
So, just let me be that guy for a minute. What? So when you hit it, it's pre-recorded.
It's not. It's pre-recorded movements. It's not the actual cuts themselves. What it is excuse me, it's the movement that Jazzy Jeff would make to produce that scratch. So it works on you predetermine the sample or the beat or the sound that you're going to use with a cue point, with a hot cue. So you select the hot cue, the sound on that hot cue that you want to use, then press the pad scratch, and what it does is it moves that sample in the timing of a scratch that Jazzy Jeff has done.
Okay.
So what it is, or let me say what it isn't, is it's not a replacement for a scratch DJ, because the scratches on there are, and I don't think anybody will mind me saying this, are somewhat limited. They're not intricate, nuanced scratches that you get from an actual real human being doing it, who can react to the beat and can ride that beat. What they are is an amazing tool to show people how far to move the sample, at what speed to move the sample. You can pitch the pad scratch to anything that you're playing. So if you're playing a beat that's 90 BPM, you can pitch the channel that you're using the pad scratch on to 90 BPM, and it will do perfectly timed scratches over the top. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant tool for teaching people and showing people how to scratch.
I think when you actually listen to it as well, like Terry did a video last week, and also the Jazzy Jeff official video that Serato have done, you can hear that when you press the pad scratch button versus someone doing it, it does sound much better with a human doing it, because those kind of techniques and movement need a little bit of looseness, and they need the rawness to sound authentic. You know, that's probably one thing that,
so
a computer can't do. So it's, and that really kind of emphasizes, look, okay, you want to learn to scratch, this is how you do it. Oh, okay, that's how it's moving. Good, right, okay, I can copy that. And it's an amazing training tool.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even if you want to have a little bit of fun with it in your set, great.
Exactly.
Great.
I mean, I don't see any problem with it. Someone triggering a little sample like that in the middle of their set just to get a nice little effect with it, who might not necessarily scratch. But the thing is, this isn't going to replace scratching. It's not going to replace scratch DJs. Same as the sync button's not going to replace DJs. Jazzy Jeff himself, he did an interview with Digital DJ Tips. Was it Digital DJ Tips?
Aye.
Yeah. And he said that all he wants to do is push the culture forward and push the culture of DJing forward and bring, like, say, 10-year-olds, 15-year-old kids into it. You can't necessarily afford to go out and buy themselves a top-end controller, or their parents can't afford to buy it for them and can't afford to buy a pair of turntables with a scratch mixer. So I think that's a very valid point. You are not going to get high-end club DJs or scratch DJs using a DDJ-SB3. This is literally an entry-level controller, and will sell to that market. And that market are the people that are looking to learn to scratch, looking to learn to DJ. So I think it's absolutely brilliant.
And you could also argue that at this juncture of DJing, it's kind of important to get younger kids involved.
100%. Yep, definitely. Definitely. I think it's important to get everybody involved in DJing in one way or shape or another if they've got an interest in it.
But also DJing, like learning to scratch and stuff, which probably in recent years has possibly taken a dip in terms of that age group, like start out DJs.
Yeah, I think the scratch scene at the moment, since it's become more accessible, I think we talked about on a previous episode of this, but when I was 17, 18 years old, I was struggling counting my pennies trying to get a pair of turntables in a mixer that I could scratch with. I didn't get like a proper scratch mixer like the Vestax probably 06 Pro until into my 20s, because number one, it wasn't really available until then anyway, but I wouldn't be able to afford the DMC mixer or anything like that. And kids having access to this kind of tech, and not just this kind of tech, but this kind of educational tech as well, I think is absolutely brilliant. Arguably, the scratch scene has exploded with other innovations within that, like say the S9 and stuff like that, and
like with the Red
Serato
Bull,
and the Red Bull, and all that kind of stuff. I think everybody should have access to this stuff. I've never thought that people shouldn't have access to something because they can't afford it. I think this is a great budget entry-level controller that will teach people how to scratch.
I think the key thing is, like, pushing forward. I think, if the top people are holding all the secrets, then it could stay very stagnant. If they're opening up and teaching people and showing them, giving them tricks and tools about how to do what they do, not only would it push them forward, but then opens up the skill level. It's going to be very interesting to see, the evolution. I'm not saying this is like the pinnacle of it kind of changing there, but if this kind of continues with the knowledge, and sharing it,
where it's going,
great. That's it's the reason.
But it's not vinyl though, is it, bruv?
Let me ask you this: is this the first?
Can't wax my
Thanks,
car,
Facebook DJ.
Is this the first of this kind of sort of
with this feature? Yes,
yes, definitely. Well, this and actually the effects fade are pretty much world first on any controller. And again, I think you're going to have to get your hands on one of these to kind of see the power behind it, because you do get a lot of bang for your buck with a controller like this. And again, I've said this on previous podcasts. I've actually taken the first SB out and played gigs on it, so you can actually play a full gig on it. I mean, it comes with Serato DJ Lite, which is the new version of Serato Intro, which works completely fine with it. But I found that these new features really came to life with Serato DJ Pro, but like using the slip and using like kind of the beat gridding and things like that you're able to do within Pro rather than as opposed to what you can't do within Lite. So yes, it's a really decent bit of kit, and great.
I think it brings us on neatly to Serato 2, which came out as well, long awaited. So it's now, as we've mentioned before, it's now Serato DJ Pro is the new Serato main program, and Serato DJ Lite was the older former Intro. And I think the biggest change is it's now got a performance mode. So now when you open it up, instead of it just being a single track editor to kind of prep your tracks and playlists and what have you, you can actually select a second deck without it being connected to a bit of compatible hardware and mix tunes together and change stuff out. Audition mixes and just test stuff out. In all honesty, it's nothing new in the grand scheme of things. Traxxer and Recordbox and other platforms have had that for a while. So, for me, it definitely kind of brings it up to the level of the others in that sense. What else has it got? It's also got a kind of more advanced like help features on there as well. So there's more tutorials and stuff you can link to. High resolution for sort of 64-bit Windows users. So it's a nice bit of a kind of tidy up and a bit of a kind of performance enhancement. I mean, I was thinking initially, I probably would have wanted a little bit more out of it. I didn't feel disappointed, but I felt like, with like a second version of something, you wanted to be like,
great.
But mind you, Serato have been releasing like the big, like kind of the big features over the last couple of years.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that, if you look them back over the last year with, the flip and the key features that they've actually introduced and led a lot of those kind of evolution of the software side of DJ platforms. So,
I mean, if flip was to be released with this version of it, we'd all be going, oh, wow, that's a big thing.
Changer.
But back to the practice mode, I mean, I've started using it. I was on the plane on the way back the other day, just knocking about some tunes and doing a mix with my headphones on. I thought it was great. And like Jay says, it's not the first time this has appeared in a piece of software, but it's definitely, from my experience, one of the most usable ways of doing like kind of a practice mix with a piece of software.
So you can just do it plugged into your headphones.
Yep. That's all you need.
Sort of practice. That's really good, actually.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing I always found missing. With the earlier
Barry's
editions.
clearly not downloaded this, have you?
No, I haven't. I'm trying to get on record boxes, I'm trying to jump. But that is a good feature, because that's never been something I could do before,
Yeah.
Just to practice out what goes with what, or what have you. But
just sticking tunes over the top of each other to see what goes. I mean, you've got like a you got like a full transport like kind of.
What is a transburn?
You've got the transburn button on there.
It's a bird that likes a little bit of everything.
So you've got a whole mixer on there basically. And
I got
move on.
I got it.
So tedious.
On the transbirds. Anyway, next up is the Denon.
Yeah, VL12s, the turntables. We've been waiting a while for these. We kind of thought they were coming at the end of last year. We got a sneak peek at the BPM Pro show. And then finally, we got our hands on a pair. They finally came out, I think about a month or so ago now. Amazing. There's a couple of really cool features on there. I think the torque adjustment is one to be able to kind of switch between light and heavy depending on what you want. Standard features like the ability to kind of change the pitch range. On-off switch is well protected for those kind of scratch DJs.
They're also introducing a new category in the World's Strongest Man, where if you can pick up two of them at the same time, you might actually they are lumps.
So I think the Technics are around 11 kilos, the 1210s, and I think these come in about 14, 15.
Yeah.
They are...
What? Let's talk about price. What's the...
So they are $650. I would double check djkit.com. I think they're around $650. So they're definitely, I mean, obviously comparison, we've spoke before about Technics, in comparison to those, they're still half the price of those. The PLX 1000 Pioneers, I think around sort of 500. So they're
in there.
Their VL12s is what we were just having. Myself and Barry were just having a little bit of a cut on their VL12s. Yeah.
So they're definitely on the higher end, but you feel like you're kind of getting the value for money.
I think they're really nice.
Yeah,
and the lighting and all that. I've
to be able to change the ring, the color ring around it. I mean,
small things, but I mean that in a nice room is going to look really nice.
One of our students the other day, he's a scratch student. We had them set up, and he. I think we sold them to him just on the lights. Like he was like, "Yeah, these are going to look amazing in my front room."
I'm not playing records. I'm just going to keep turning the lights.
I know that we were talking about the stop was a bit slow when you press start stop.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the biggest issue in the world, but I think it's just purely from the weight of the platter. It just takes a little bit longer to stop. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get that 3/4 stop. It's quite consistent across turntables, so it's not necessarily wrong. I think it's just different, and it also that also changes depending on the torque. If you've got the torque set to heavy, that start-stop will take a little bit longer to. But it's very nice.
Actually, it's the other way around. With the torque on high, it stops slightly quicker. Still not as quick as maybe the Pioneer or the Technics, but if you've got the torque set to lower, which I feel is actually the torque on the lower setting isn't quite as good as the torque on the Technics, and the torque on the higher setting is more like the old Vestax turntables that were vicious. They take your arm off if you put
I was impressed. I thought they felt good and they look great.
They look amazing, yeah.
Probably not ones to be carrying around to gigs from the
I don't think I'd want to take any turntables to gigs.
But if you're
my days of that are gone.
I guess if you're setting up regularly at places and
to be honest, if you're taking turntables to gigs, you can probably afford roadies and they can take them for you. Yeah, that's true.
Well, mind you, now I think we've mentioned this before as well that UDG have done that bag where you can have one turntable and the S9 mixer in just one little carry case. A lot of turntablists are just using one turntable now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Right, what we got next?
DDJ-1000.
Oh yeah, and you the
excitement in the studio.
So a big shout to Sam Shepherd from Pioneer who came down. We did a live stream doing a demo for this DDJ-1000 and also the record box. They've smashed it with this controller. Smashed it. It's there are so many good things. Number one, instantly when you look at it, there are two things that pop out. One, full-size CDJ platters, and I think that's quite a big thing for controller DJs. I look back at the S4 that I took on tour for 4 years around the world, and I look at the 1000, I think, wow, that's a big win. And with adjustable, light, torque on there as well. The layout they've got it so right. It literally is, two CDJs and kind of modelled on like a 750 mixer, even down to the finish. It's really the minute details, and I think, for that that kind of transparency and familiarity between I'm practicing at home and I'm going to go and play in a club with your sort of standard Pioneer setup.
No messing around, is it?
You know, there's you're really not going to struggle in any shape or form. In fact, if anything, you probably miss the pads because you don't obviously have the pads on the CDJs. But you know, everything else on there is just just amazing. Phone's just gone. We'll just quickly
There's a few
call
eager
someone back
listeners
on
trying
that.
to get the questions in.
But live caller, you're on the air.
The Ryan line is open. So you were saying like if you were missing the pads, you could easily just take it with you.
Yeah,
it's
you could do. Do you know what? So the big thing for that I do need to stress, because I think there's been a little bit of confusion about that. The DDJ-1000 has to work with a laptop. In fact, even better, it can work with two laptops. You can have two laptops plugged in, and you know, making back-to-backs like absolutely seamless. Yeah. Whereas the the XDJ RX is a standalone controller, USB. And you can also plug it into a laptop as well. So that's a huge difference between the two. The other thing that I'm super excited about it is the 3 new effects. Now, normally when they bring new hardware effects on board, then your 3 new effects like, oh yeah, that one's cool, that one's bang on, that one's a bit. All 3 of
You're
these are
saying
banging.
These are keepers. You're going to use them.
Oh yeah. Well,
there are a lot that you go, it's okay, but you probably don't go to it very often.
No. But there's Enigma Jet. Now, Terry and I have been massive fans of Jet. I remember back in the old days, I can't even remember the model of the old Pioneer CDJs where you'd selected the effect and then you turned the platter to activate the effect. Okay, and if you didn't quite press the button properly, you'd end up rewinding the tune.
It was the CDJ 500, wasn't it?
It's the silver one.
Yeah. You press the button and you go.
Sounds good.
Enigma.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll turn that off right now.
Yeah. I would have kept going then if you hadn't turned me off.
Your mic's off, mate. So the Enigma Jet, it's like, for me, it's a usable effect.
Yeah.
And I think there are some effects out there that are just a bit too mental.
Yeah.
Then you've got Mobius Saw and Mobius
Planet Destroyer. I can't remember. It sounds like a baddie's name, doesn't
Prime.
it? Mobius Jet and Mobius Saw. No, it's not Mobius Jet, is it?
Mobius Echo. There's 2 Mobius effects on there. Again, if you check the demo out that we've got on our Facebook page, which Sam Shepherd did, we've also got it up on our YouTube channel. You can do some amazing stuff with this, which again is very, very usable in a club. Really, really works well.
The mad thing about the Mobius one is they're kind of, if you can have an effect that stands alone, it kind of stands alone. You trigger it, and it's not necessarily triggered by the track that you're playing. So, what it is it appears to be a constantly rising tone or a constantly descending tone, isn't it?
Condescending.
A constantly condescending tone. Well,
don't like you're a rubbish DJ. I didn't think. Have you done your washing? You've left just dirty socks on the floor.
Well, it's not a vinyl DJ, are you?
Jesus Christ.
Do you know what? This is a little bit like trying to do an art show as a podcast, isn't it? Oh, yeah, well, the picture's this, and this. You know what? Just check out the live stream. You'll
basically,
see
hold on. Let me do my impression. It goes.
Let me ask an actual question here and stop.
Just turn the mic off, hold on.
What about price on this?
Just over £1,000. So, look, for me, a lot of students that come in here say, like, what controller would you buy? If I was, where I am now and I wanted to set up at home, I would massively struggle between the DDJ-1000, which is, I think, 1,050, so just a touch over 1,000, and the XDJ RX2, which is just over 1,500. So there's £500 difference, but obviously with the RX2, you don't need a laptop, so you can plug a USB in. So again, for that extra confidence that your USB is going to do exactly what you want it to do when you plug it into the club, that's the big win. Me personally, I'd probably tipping more towards the DDJ-1000, just purely because of mainly the jog wheels and also the 4 channels. So I definitely need 4
And
channels.
also the other thing to take into account with the 1000 is you can. It's been quite a big thing in the turntablist world with the S9 for a little while, but you can use it in keyboard mode, so you can trigger a hot cue up and down the scale.
Yeah.
There's some crazy little effects you can do with that. There's the keyboard and the other one. Yeah, the other one. But yeah, the keyboard effect is absolutely crazy.
Do you think for for turntablists or budding turntablists, the size of the platters is a big thing for.
I think it, and I've said this all the way through since I first saw it. I think the features that are on it, the full size platters, the keyboard effect, the crossfader, just a mixer section there as well.
Espresso machine.
If you're
That's nice. I like
Netflix.
Sold.
I think if you're a turntablist and you're looking at a controller, I'm not sure how many of them there are out there, but I think this would be the controller that you'd look at for sure.
Okay,
Now, well, this kind of brings us on to our next one, really.
I'm really rubbish at jingles.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This brings us to the next subject, the Rane 12s. Now, we've been trying to get our hands on a pair so that we could give you a proper rundown of them. But these look. If Rane were going to come back in important, then this is it. Yeah, this is it. So Rane have always traditionally kind of been in and around the turntablist world with their range of mixers, but also like the original
breakout boxes
with Serato. So they're a name, they're a known entity within that world. So they've come back with, of course, their range of amazing Serato mixers before, but they've come back with the 12. So the 12, if you haven't seen it, is basically
needleless turntable.
A needleless turntable.
There you go.
A needleless,
Serato controller.
Yeah, it's a controller. It's basically a controller with full-size turntable platters with a piece of vinyl on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back in the day, there used to be, probably like 10, 12 years ago, there used to be the Newmark CDX, which was the CDJ with a full-size vinyl platter and a piece of vinyl on it. And I used to absolutely love them. Newmark gave me a pair back in the day, and all the scratches that we did on the first album were done on them. So I could take parts of and that was revolutionary. I could take parts that we just made in the studio and use them on the CDJs and scratch them like a turntable. So now, it's obviously we've had the dawn of DVS since then, and everybody's using turntables for everything. Obviously, like the point that lets a lot of DJs down, whether it be live or in a studio environment, are the needles and the kind of the connection through the needles, which is the most analog part of it. And Rane have come along and completely taken that out of the equation. And
it feels like it's taken a while for that, because that's something that you could have triggered from years back, but
it feels that way. Yeah, it definitely feels that way. But Rane have done it now, so it's the videos that I'm seeing online. Jazzy Jeff did a little video
Scratch
of it.
Bastard did
Scratch
one.
Bastard. If you follow Scratch Bastard on Instagram, he did an unboxing story on his Instagram, and he's actually saved it as one of his saved stories on there, so you can go and check that out. And that's a really good thing to look at if you're interested in these, because he kind of breaks down everything about it.
There is so much cool stuff around.
Yeah, there really is.
You know what? Even just kind of going back on what we were talking about earlier about, not even just kind of sort of techniques, but the facility of kind of equipment to enable people to do this.
Yeah,
it's exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
this is the probably buzziest it's ever been. Do you think in recent years? Or?
It's funny. We did this kind of series of interviews, this kind of tech evolution, and we asked, where do you see technology going? And one we did with Don from Stanton's was. We should play it on this show, actually. He said he couldn't see how far it could go further, and I agreed with him at the time. It's hard to see, and then you see these sort of innovative products coming out, and it kind of compounds what we've been saying a lot. Is that DJ equipment now is turning less. Well, it's obviously always been a medium to play recorded music. That's obvious. That's always the foundation. But they're turning more and more into musical instruments.
Yeah.
As not even years go by, it now seems to be months that it's going by.
Development after development.
Coming into the world of DJing. We get a lot of students that are, vinyl heads, guys in the sort of kind of mid-early 40s that have, had a vinyl collection back in the day, sold them, had some kids, mortgage, what have you, and then coming back into it, and it's a minefield out there. But
I can imagine if you just dropped all tools for 10 years and came back to this, you'd be like, what's going on?
Yeah, but it's been a very kind of logical, natural progression of technology, but obviously if you take a 10-year out of it, it's
and like you said, you don't really know what's around the corner until it actually comes. And you're like, oh wow, look at that. It's some of it is kind of crazy. But all going in the right direction, as you said. So, speaking of which, we go on to the next piece of kit.
Yeah, so, well, this actually isn't a bit of kit. This is Kuvo. Now, I'll just explain a little bit about what Kuvo is just before we kind of go into what we want to talk specifically about it. A few years back now, Pioneer DJ came up with a Kuvo box, and there was also a software and an app to go with it. And the idea behind this was kind of twofold. One was for clubs to install this Kuvo box that would be networked between the CDJs and the mixer and also connected to the internet. And the idea is that each track that's played would be tracked correctly so that in kind of future times, rather than, say, Ministry of Sound, for example, just playing a blanket PRS license and the money just being dispersed, whatever, they'd actually have a very accurate log of exactly the music that was publicly broadcasted within really their club, and so the right people get paid. I mean, I think it's a phenomenal idea. You know, I loved it. It was a little bit slow off the ground. Obviously, they've been hugely busy with a lot of other bits and pieces as well. And then on the social media side of it, for the app side, it gave just, you know, fans of dance music the ability to pick that specific club, you know, Space in Ibiza or wherever the club has got it installed, and you could see what DJs had played there and what music they would play. You know, that could also link to iTunes so people can buy it. You know, a little bit like what Mixcloud does, where it will link directly to Juno download for the track list that's automatically, you know, kind of Shazam styled.
Let me ask you this: are DJs in favour of this generally, or is it? I mean, because ultimately they'll get paid if they make the tracks.
They should be.
But DJs also like to keep their stuff under wraps at times.
You still can. So to make that very clear, in the Rekordbox software, you can untick that particular song, and then it will just show up as blank. So, you know, this is kind of revolutionary. You know, the whole PRS and PPL reporting system is insanely archaic.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when I used to have a show on Kiss FM, literally once every 8 weeks, they would take just a sample of what was being played. You know, that may have changed now, but, you know, Radio 1 was the only one that were actually submitting track lists of exact tunes every single day for every single show, and people were getting paid according to that.
I think most of the backlash that I saw about Kuvo when it first came out was just people not really understanding what it did and just assuming that if they were to give their track list through Kuvo, they'd end up having to pay again to play those tunes and stuff like that. They as a DJ, they're the ones that would be having to pay PRS and all that kind of stuff. So I think that a little bit of transparency about the what it is, how it works, and what the whole system is, I think could do the whole thing a favour. And I think hopefully with this kind of Kuvo, Kuvo 3? That might happen now.
Yeah, so what this kind of third generation of the app is doing is it's now opening up individuals to be able to publicly post their own mixes. So what I've done is I had to play around with it this week, and you can just, I mean, it literally took me seconds. You connect either to your YouTube account or your Mixcloud account, which, you know, I'd say both are hugely popular for people to upload mixes. It will come up with all of the tunes that you've uploaded to that account. You hit publish, and you can add information like genre and add a few notes where it was recorded and what have you. And it will take all the artwork, all the information, and bang, just post it out. That's good. You know, obviously in the grand scheme of kind of social networking at the moment, there are a lot of choices out there. So, you know, from that side, I think it's going to be a bit tough. But the reality is, you know, if you can basically, you know, pick your favourite club and your favourite DJs and get a list of everything they're playing. Whether they choose to share that or not is in the hands of them, so it's up to them. Yeah. But, you know, for me, the big win is about the producers that are making this music, you know, actually getting paid the right amount of money. You know, some guy from PPL or PRS would just kind of take X amount of money from a pub and go, right, okay, this kind of feels like a rock crowd in here, right? So the X amount of money they pay us will just be divvied up to all the kind of rock bands. You know, there's no, you know, in this day and age, I think it's absolutely insane that we aren't accurately reporting and paying people who are actually getting publicly performed, you know, for the music that they own, you know, whatever side of the rights that they own for that music.
Interesting stuff.
Before we get out of here as well, I just wanted to give a quick heads up about the phase DVS system as well which is basically...
Would you like a drum roll?
No.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Because I haven't actually been practicing. So.
So Yeah, we don't really know too much about it yet, but definitely go and check out their Instagram page. Basically, it's a needleless and turntableless. You can literally attach the two sensors to your own records.
Seeing this.
And DJ DVS through Serato, I think it is. It broadcasts wirelessly to the hub.
Yeah.
And it triggers the Serato in any other kind of DVS fashion. So definitely go check out their, just for some wicked scratching more than anything else. They've got Babu. They got one of our tutors, John First, on there using them as well. So just go and check them out. I think. Hold on, 2 seconds. 1, 2. I just brought it up on Instagram and then I shut my phone down. Hold on. So go and check out. It's at Phase PHASE_DJ. Go and check it out.
Okay.
Nice. All right, so I think that's it for all the news and bits and pieces. Plenty going on.
Couple of questions, perhaps.
Yeah, we did open it up. We thought, let's get listeners involved. And I should stress, right now, if you have a question, we do like to have them technical. But if you've got any other related questions,
there was this question. Frank from Milton Keynes. Jay, why is your hair so beautiful? What conditioner do you use?
There is that I talk about DJs sharing their secrets, mate, but I'm sorry, Frank,
that's
I'm not sharing that secret.
Timothy.
So, okay.
It's actually, I rub Old Spice in my hair.
Before this gets ridiculous, will I get the first
So,
question?
so basically we opened up these questions. So look, if you do want to ask us any questions, anything at all, it would be great if they were technically related and all course related to DJing, but if you do have
anything at all,
hair or other related,
we're up for it.
Just go to Facebook, search for On The Rise DJ Academy and drop us a message.
I get the shine on my head through using margarine.
And Old Spice.
Basically everything starts with Old Spice, doesn't it?
That's why you smell and taste good.
Serious question, do you use Old Spice?
I do. That's why I smell like a fried chicken going out on the town for the night.
Oh, God.
All right, so what's the first question, Bazza?
Okay, this comes in from Mr. Ray Allen. I'm going to say it in the voice I think he has.
Verbatim. Oh, okay, yeah.
Please do, yeah.
Great.
You've mentioned many times that if you have MP3s, anything below 320 should be binned. What about downloads from iTunes? I'm pretty sure they're all 256.
Do you know what? I know Ray quite well, and that's exactly what he sounds like.
I thought he sounded like that. So good question.
It is a good question. Ray, thank you very much for that. I've got to say, I don't think we've ever actually said anything below 320 should be binned. I think it's not as black and white as that. I think the general guideline that we give is that anything below 250 should be on your radar. And that is because, 256, you're right, is M4A, which is AAC Advanced Audio Codec format from iTunes, which is the latest compression format that is taken over or superseded MP3.
It is quite quiet, though. I've noticed that. Have you?
Listen, for years and years, I've bought tunes off iTunes and played them in a club.
Have you tried turning the volume up on your Walkman?
No, but I just in comparison to a 320, I do find you're gaining a bit, but it's so easy to buy music there. So if for me,
to be honest, I've never had a problem with it.
Okay.
For 79p a tune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So a bit of a big topic. So let's kind of tackle this. So as a general rule, I say anything that's kind of between 250 and 320 for compressed audio is generally going to be good enough to play as long as the source of that material is trusted. iTunes, Juno, Amazon, Beatport, wherever it is that you buy music, or CD rips, whatever.
Not a USB off of ET. Off ET.
I
was going to say
for ripping stuff off YouTube.
I was going to say eTunes off eBay. What is wrong with me today?
eTunes.
Obviously, financial implications aside and moral implications, torrents, YouTube rips, Facebook rips, your mates, these are all generally no-nos.
Your mates.
Your mates get put in with... They can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I have personally been given WAVs, which are, an uncompressed format equal to CD quality. And on paper, they look and they actually sound great. I've got this little nerdy app on my Mac called Spec. If anyone is interested in getting it, it's spek.cc is the website. It's in alpha at the moment, so it's really not that reliable. But it's a spectral analyzer.
Good
And
recommendation,
yeah,
bro.
yeah, exactly.
That's not a bad
Well,
idea.
as soon as I started saying, I was like, nah.
It's a good idea to check what your files are saying though before.
Oh, mate, I tell you, here's a good one. Faking the Funk. And you can get a free version of this. And what it will do is it will analyze your whole collection, and it will tell you the bit rate that the file is at, but it will tell you what it originally started at.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
that's
So
what
the
I'm saying.
hidden WAV kind of thing where it's like, well, that's
Exactly,
not
yeah,
actually
because
a WAV.
I've been given WAVs and I've put them through the spectral analyzer, and we're going to get a bit nerdy now, peaking at 16 kilohertz. You know, a WAV should be between 20 and 24.
I'm actually I'm digging this one because
I'll turn his mic down, it's fine.
it's a WAV mask basically. It's
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
mask.
Someone's
Yeah.
just put a, someone's
Yeah.
just put a little ski mask on a.
You did say
piece of
WAV, didn't you?
I did.
So get back to the original question. So I would say generally anything above 250, as long as the source is good, is going to be good enough to play. Anything sort of between 200 and 160, I've got stuff that's on my computer that I wouldn't play in a club, but I do play on radio. These are tunes that they were limited edition, white label, 500 press, came out in 1991. Can't find them anywhere. They're £150 to buy on Discogs. They're amazing tunes. I want to play them on the radio. I'm still going to keep them until I can find a better copy.
There's definitely a couple of 192s knocking around in my playable library, and they're just tunes that I just can't get anywhere else.
And can't be without. Basically.
Yeah, they're not ones that and I probably won't play them that often just because they're a 192.
But
I'd only
similarly,
play
you
them on
can't throw it
certain-
out. You can't bin it.
No, definitely not. They're ones that I would definitely play in like mixes, or if I'm not on like a sound system that would really show up that it's a 192. Like a lot of the original break stuff that I can either get. I trust a 192 over a vinyl rip every single time. That's just me.
Oh, okay. So if the source was say like a CD, yes, okay.
Yeah.
So you've still got the full dynamic range.
Yeah,
there, so
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuff that, or maybe I bought off iTunes a long time ago that's not available anymore and stuff like that. When you could only download stuff at 192, so there's a couple knocking around. So the dynamic range is there. It's just not
on point
all the way there.
Yeah. So what I would confidently say is anything that's 128 and below, I've definitely been that Ray. That's a definite. Just because it's been compressed so much, you're not really going to notice the difference on your headphones when you're traveling to work.
No.
But in a club, that is going to have an impact, and I think it's your reputation that's at stake here.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to produce and perform the best quality music possible.
But even if you're just using them at home to practice with or stuff like that, it's not really a big issue. But just don't play them out in clubs.
I mean. So the one thing I have kind of found as well, if you're doing stuff like, utilising the effects where it's expanding and adjusting that kind of dynamic range for effect purposes, if you don't have that full frequency range to start with, not that I'd, again, if you're practicing at home, it's not going to make a huge difference. But if you're just starting out and you're learning to understand what these effects sound like, you want to present them with as much, data as possible for them to be able to do, what they're intended to.
But you can still listen to them on your phone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Listen to 64 kbit on your phone. Barry, what are you doing? What's going on, mate?
I'm looking for something here.
Barry just left.
Trying to find your 128s, chuck them in the bin.
So move to the next question, I think. And I love this guy's name.
So, okay. The only thing I want to just add on to that is, WAVs and AIFF and FLAC. The kind of lossless formats. Obviously they're great. They're carrying a far bigger dynamic range. People have asked me many, many times, would you only play those? Certain people will only play like uncompressed WAV AIFF formats. Some people don't care. I play a mixture of both. I don't really believe that many club goers are going to notice that difference. As long as you've got a good quality compressed file, it's not going to make that bigger impact. But we had Decline in here a couple of weeks ago. He goes, "I always play MP3, so I don't see what the fuss is about."
Yeah.
And that's a producer who's been around for 20 years.
Yeah.
He's sustained a very long career.
And definitely gets more gigs than pretty much anybody else on the planet.
Yeah.
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 So what's Gareth
Garrett
Kate's name.
Pate or Pate?
Okay, oh,
It could be French. It
Well,
could be let's do a French. You have to do French.
No. This is you. You're reading out the questions.
Vinyl or USB?
Vinyl.
From
Vinyl.
Garrett Pate.
Vinyl or USB?
There's no way there's a French guy called Garrett. But anyway, vinyl or USB? it's a fairly straightforward. He literally texted in 3 words: vinyl or USB. So I'll leave it to you boys.
Yeah,
mull
you
this
want to take this one?
Not really. Well, both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
Both, great.
Yeah.
Love playing vinyl, love playing digital.
Yeah.
Next.
Everything.
Yeah.
Basically everything. Controllers, USB, vinyl. I say everything, but I'd stay away from CDs nowadays. But if you want to play on CDs, then play on CDs. We're not elitist when it comes to anything like this. I think if you want to DJ, you'll find a way to do it. Whatever your budget, however it sits with you, go and do it. If you love vinyl, just play vinyl. If you just want to play USB, play USB. We love it all and we teach it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do what
go,
makes
Gareth.
you happy.
Do
Gareth, I
what
hope
makes
that
you
answers your
happy,
question.
Gareth. Life advice on the Knowledge Crew
Are you going to read
podcast.
out? Are you going to do?
I have to do a
Billy
woman's
Poppins
voice.
Oh, shall I do this one?
Yeah, this is your one there.
What's the best entry-level controller to get started on?
What's that?
That's from Millie Poppins.
Totally not made up.
Who was
Hello, I'm Millie Poppins. I'm interested in an entry-level
Millie
controller.
Poppins.
Which one's the best one for my needs? It needs
Okay.
to match my shoes.
So that's a good question, Millie.
So there's a lot of good entry-level controllers out there, and the good news is you do not need to spend a lot of money. I think our 2 favourites are the Pioneer DDJ RB, which is around £220, and you will get a full version of Rekordbox DJ with that worth
Full version of Rekordbox.
Yeah, it's a good deal.
£99.
Yeah.
Good deal.
So, you're basically getting a good pro entry-level controller for like just over £100. The other favourite, which we've already talked about, is the DDJ-SB3. I kind of want to say that's £230 or...
It's something around that. I think it's €250 and
feel like we
£220.
should have done our research before.
I've been looking. Do you know? I've been looking at the price consistently for the last 2 days on the info for the actual unit. So I think it's 220.
Definitely in the more affordable stage, but that does come with a Serato DJ Lite. So to get the full functionality, it's $129 or around £99 for the Pro version. So a little bit more expensive, but again, definitely on that kind of entry level. And both of them are packed with features.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you get with both these controllers. All you'll need with that is a laptop and a pair of speakers.
Yep, definitely. But my advice to any DJ just kind of starting out, just go and download Serato Lite and Rekordbox. They're both free, and just have a feel around of them and like kind of discover what you like about them, what you don't like about them. There's not much you won't like about them, but I think there'll be a lot of stuff that you will like about them. So just go in, put a few tunes in, mark a few cue points, and get started.
Okay. Well answered. Hope Millie Poppins.
Thanks.
Millie Poppins is running to some shop now. to
Thank
buy
you.
some gear.
You've helped make my decision for
the
me.
next one is Mr.
I'll read this out.
Mr. Aaron Itchy. Go
Aaron
ahead.
Itchy.
All right, bruv.
That's what I was going to do. Brav. What is the best turntable set up for a vinyl scratch setup? I think I changed
You've
direction with
literally
that.
only got one accent that's not offensive.
And that wasn't one of them.
So let's read it
basically,
again.
what's the best turntable setup for a vinyl DJ looking to get into scratching? I think is basically what
good,
Aaron
good
Itchy
question.
was asking.
Wait, what was the question again? Hold on, I was just.
Oh God, I'm exhausted.
Alright.
When you
All
start
right,
getting-
bruv. What's the best turntable setup for vinyl scratching? Yeah. So, I genuinely think
What's the
any-
question again? Where does Barry keep? Where does he keep
I don't know, where does he
going?
keep going?
Has he got? Have you got like a can of Coke in there that you're not sharing with the rest of us? I was going to say something worse, but I thought no, keep it clean.
What's this? 1975 Russia. People fighting over cans of Coke.
McDonald's.
So, I would say the PLX 1000.
Put your arms down, try and take a picture.
Yeah, sorry.
So you can still talk.
What? No, I can't. Not on pose at the same time. So it depends what your budget is. Me, myself, I'm absolutely in love with the PLX 1000s, the Pioneer PLX 1000s. I think they're the best turntable on the market at the moment. Again, haven't quite fully got my head into the VL12s yet, but the PLX 1000s are slightly cheaper if you're just kind of starting out, not much cheaper. But also, I mean, if you've got the money, the Pioneer S9 is the clear way to go, along with Serato. But the mixer...
Is that like a kind of money's no object?
That's a money's no object setup. If money is the slightly lower budget one of that, would be the Mixar Duo, which I think is an awesome mixer as well. You basically got most of the same functions on it, and if you want to go down a little bit lower in budget, I'd say the Pioneer DJM 250, Mark II. I think that's a great mixer. It's DVS ready for. I mean, you'd have to get yourself a DVS license for that as well, but that's DVS ready for Rekordbox, and Rekordbox is proving to be a really, really stable, really cool DVS platform. So,
I just want to add to that as well, for not from a scratch perspective, Aaron, but from a DJ's perspective, someone that's used Technics for since 1992, a long, long time. The PLX 1000s, there was like literally zero difference in using those. The familiarity was very much the same. The talk, the feel. I just, I went from using SoundLab belt drives sort of up to like 91, and when we finally could afford 1210s, I had to learn to mix all over again because it was a completely different operation from obviously belt drive to direct drive. But that transition was just there was no difference. There really was.
I had a question. When you were talking top money's no issue, what are you talking just for Aaron?
For what money, budget-wise?
The top end was.
So if you were to get yourself a pair of PLX 1000s, that would be 1,200 quid.
Okay.
And I think the S9 is about between 12 and 1500.
I think it's about 15. God,
Yeah.
we are terrible with prices.
Yeah, I know, we're not very good
Do you know
with
what?
prices.
Just go to
Because we
DJ
don't
Kit.
pay for anything. Pow!
That's actually not true. We buy a lot of equipment.
Yeah, well, we bought the PLX 1000. So the other thing to be said on that as well is if you're getting into scratch DJing, you need yourself a decent pair of cartridges. So needles and cartridges. I personally recommend the Shure M44-7s. I think they are workhorses. Now,
Really? Can we have a
loud.
little thing on this? I keep breaking mine. I've had to.
They've become, I'll say this about them, they've definitely
They're
become a
flimsy or
little
something.
bit more flimsy over the years, and I think that's because they're mass producing them. When I first started scratching with them back in like 96 or 95 or 96 or whatever, they used to be on the turntable TV like with Qbert, no one knew about them until then, and you could only get them in Japan. And they were like, these are the best needles for scratching with, and they just took off.
Put your own little weights on them.
Yeah, well, you didn't have to. That was the whole point, because they were nice and heavy, stable, and they were indestructible back then. Since they've become a little bit more mass produced, they're a little bit more brittle. We just broke one yesterday.
I've given up
actually.
on them. I thought they were too. I was getting them replaced too much.
You should stop punching the turntable then, shouldn't you?
You know how I like to do it. Handstands and whatnot.
That's how I scratch, mate.
Learn from you guys. Don't forget.
And the other thing is, if you're not necessarily getting into the DVS side of it, there is some awesome scratch records out there at the moment. Number one, I'd say, is the cut and paste guys with the skip-proof records. But you've also got, if you come to us, you can get 10% off them.
Ding 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 ding.
But yeah, there's also there's loads of guys out there, but definitely check out cut and paste records. They're awesome.
And the other ones.
And the other ones, yeah. They don't send us stuff, so just go.
Wow. This podcast contains product placement.
No, mostly because I can't remember them. I don't know what's wrong with my head today. I can't remember prices or names of stuff.
I feel these show notes are going to be pretty extensive.
Yeah, 100%.
You're basically just downloading this for comedy rather than facts.
So, Aaron, there's your answers. Hope you find something from that.
Nice one, guys.
Next, he's a geezer, I can tell. This is from Tom Nisbet.
No. Tom's American.
Yeah,
Oh, is he?
From
Yeah,
New York.
yeah, it's from New York.
Okay, well.
Hey, I'm walking here.
Hey, yo!
Hey, yo, where's the nearest pizza parlor?
He has got a good. He has for you wouldn't expect this from someone over that way, but it's a nice question.
It is, yeah.
And he wrote, "Hey, yo, what's happened to and where can I find good old-fashioned UK garage?"
Nice.
That was actually
Discuss.
pretty decent.
I like that.
Can you do that again?
I said, "Yo, what happened to and where can I find good old-fashioned UK garage?" It's a good question, though, Tom.
It is a good question.
after
Do you know
my
what?
own
This actually like took over the whole post that we put up this week about have you got any questions for
really?
us?
Yeah.
So we kind of answered it. I hope, Tom, on the post, but for the rest of you out there that are keen to get hold of some UK garage.
That was actually really good. Say garage again.
No, come on.
Go on, say it once
He's
more.
going to listen
One
to
more
this.
time for the fun.
Garage. UK versus US garage. There's a
Oh
question.
no, yeah.
There's a question.
Todd Edwards versus EZ. So for me, basically iTunes. There are tons of compilations out there. Ministry have done God knows how many. I love Garage this. EZ did a whole kind of mix series as well. Basically, you can buy like 3 or 4 compilations, and you've got yourself like about 200.
But are those ones not the kind of more sort of R&B remixes and stuff
So
that kind of got into the...
No, it's literally I kind of I started making my name in the garage scene. I was on like DJ Lux Pirate Station, Lush FM back in the
He was on Champagne Bubbler FM.
No, that was the MC's name.
That must have been a time and an era.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So that they are a mixture of literally that kind of US garage, more 4/4, Todd Edwards kind of stuff. Which I'm a huge fan of Todd Edwards. I love his stuff. That Alabama blues and the San Germain remix he did were just like out of this world. All the way up to the kind of sort of slightly more speed garagey sounds, then the 2-steppy stuff, and then there's a little bit of that more kind of R&B stuff that's in there. So it's a little bit of everything. But even some of them have got like kind of Zinc 138 Trek and the jamming stuff that was on Bingo, that 130 BPM, 138 BPM stuff that Zinc was doing. There's a whole range of stuff that's on
iTunes is covering the spectrum basically.
Yeah. Just
well.
basically, literally, just search garage.
Okay.
And they'll come up. The other way that I kind of find stuff is I search for like a popular tune that you want, and it'll obviously come up as a single, but then look, it's also features on all the compilations underneath. Click on one of those compilations. For me, these compilations are like $9.99 for like 60 tunes. I worked that out. That's like 12p a song or 16p a song. Even if you don't want half the songs, that's like 32p a song.
No, I know,
But also what you're doing is you're populating your library with really high quality, good versions of the tracks.
Yeah.
So you never know what situation you're going to be in if someone's going to come up and ask for one of those tunes.
Got any garage?
I'll bring you flowers in the pouring rain.
For butchering his
Living
accent.
without you is driving me insane.
Sounds like my wife's barbecue.
This is your wife's
It's the
barbecue.
anthem.
Yeah.
It is the anthem, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Big one this year, 40th. I'm just going to play like
Actually,
flowers
40
on
this year.
loop.
Yeah.
For like the whole day and the whole night.
What a sweet like chocolate.
Man, there's a
couple of those.
That was Little Man, by the way.
Do you know what, Tom? I kind of feel your pain because there's a lot of the kind of popular stuff is out there, but I've got hordes of like garage tunes, and none of them are all on vinyl, and they're not. Because garage, the peak of garage was definitely before the MP3 digital or the digital era. We missed a lot of that stuff. So the big stuff obviously is going to come back in compilations, get out there. But there's a lot of good stuff that you really still can only get on the vinyls.
With a little bit of luck,
We can make it through the night. With a little bit of luck, we can make it through the night. We done for survive. I don't know what that last line is. It's something anyway.
That'll do.
I don't know, but that was a pretty decent MC accent there as well.
I'm doing everything here today, lads.
Many
I
talents
know.
here.
So, excuse me.
Oh, that's it. We've got to put explicit
Got
on
to put a
here
beat
now.
All right. So,
You proper balls that up. Yeah.
moving on. Tech tips.
So I kind of thought like the tech tips. I put nothing down there because
Because we're out of ideas.
because we're out of ideas. That's it.
Any tips
If
for
you
the
want any
races?
more tips, you have to come and
Cheltenham
pay
week.
for them.
Cheltenham weekend, you've no tips.
A lot of the tips I think came with the question. So unless any of you guys have got a quick tip, but we're kind of coming to time. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Covered a lot of ground, fellas.
We
Yeah,
did indeed,
been
yeah.
emotional.
A lot more comedy than we usually go.
Yeah, nice.
This week,
yeah.
A lot more swearing as well.
I did put mushrooms in all the tea I just
Yeah,
made
okay.
before there. So
Yeah.
that's probably helped.
I was wondering why that wizard was standing next to you.
I was going to say something about Grand and Wizard Theodore.
I'd like to
No,
thank
don't
all
worry
the
about it,
all the question throwers for throwing questions our way. It was a nice touch. That
Yeah, I think we probably should say this a little bit more throughout the podcast. But obviously, if you have any questions, please do get in contact with us. Just go Facebook on the Rise DJ Academy is probably the easiest place to get us.
Yeah, all the comments on the iTunes podcast as well. You can leave questions there.
Spotify.
Review. We're on Spotify now.
Yeah.
I'm also trying to get us on to the Google App Play for all the Android users.
Yep.
So wherever we're, share the love, give us a review, blah, 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 blah. You know the deal.
You know the dealio.
Right, lads. Good night and God bless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah.
Is that a wrap?
I think so.
Going to break us out with the
Give
jingle?
us a quick
I
rap
don't
before
know.
we go. Quick freestyle.
Quick freestyle. This is the DJ Gnarly's podcast. No, I can't do it.
Make sure you listen before your breakfast.
Oh!
Hey. All right.